Keisha Washington woke up with the same stabbing pain in her abdomen that had troubled her for weeks. At 34 years old, she was used to keeping a busy schedule as a marketing executive at a downtown firm, but lately, the pain made it hard to focus on anything else. This morning was especially bad. She winced as she got out of bed, the sharp ache nearly bringing tears to her eyes. "I can't put this off any longer," she whispered to herself. After 2 cancelled appointments due to work emergencies, today she would finally see Dr. James Mercer at Westside Medical Center. Keisha arrived at the clinic 15 minutes early. The waiting room was half full, mostly with elderly patients and a few young mothers with children. She approached the front desk with a polite smile. "Good morning. I have a 10:30 appointment with Dr. Mercer." "Keisha Washington," she said to the receptionist, a thin woman with graying hair. The receptionist glanced up, her expression changing slightly when she saw Keisha. "ID, an insurance card, please," she said without returning the smile. Keisha handed over her documents. As the receptionist typed into her computer, Keisha noticed how the woman had warmly greeted the white patient who had checked in before her. "Take a seat. We'll call you when it's your turn," the receptionist said, returning Keisha's cards with barely a glance. Keisha sat down and pulled out her phone to check work emails. The pain throbbed steadily, and she shifted positions trying to find relief. She watched as other patients arrived after her, checked in, and were called back to see the doctor. At 11 o'clock, half an hour past her appointment time, Keisha approached the desk again. "Excuse me, I'm still waiting to see Dr. Mercer. My appointment was at 10:30. The receptionist sighed. "The doctor is running behind schedule today. Please be patient." Keisha returned to her seat, noticing that a white woman who had arrived 20 minutes after her was just being called back. She tried to focus on her phone, but the unfairness of the situation was becoming clear. By 11:45, Keisha had watched 5 more patients come and go while she continued to wait. Each time the door opened, she looked up hopefully, only to see someone else's name being called. The pain in her abdomen seemed to grow stronger with her rising frustration. Finally, at 12:10, nearly 2 hours after her scheduled appointment, a nurse appeared at the door. "Keisha Washington," she called, mispronouncing Keisha's name. Keisha stood up, gathering her purse and jacket. "It's Keisha," she corrected gently as she followed the nurse down the hallway. The nurse, a young woman named Emily according to her badge, didn't apologize for the wait. She took Keisha's blood pressure and temperature with minimal conversation, then asked her to describe her symptoms. "I've been having severe abdominal pain for about 3 weeks now," Keisha explained. "Sometimes it's a dull ache, but other times it's sharp, especially on my right side. I've also been feeling more tired than usual." Emily nodded, typing notes without looking up. "The doctor will be with you shortly," she said before leaving the room. Keisha sat on the examination table, the paper crinkling beneath her. The small room felt cold and unwelcoming. On the wall hung Dr. Mercer's impressive credentials: medical school at Johns Hopkins, residency at Mayo Clinic, 15 years of practice. Another 20 minutes passed before there was a knock at the door. Dr. Mercer entered, a tall man in his 50s with silver-streaked hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He glanced at his tablet without looking directly at Keisha. "Ms. Washington," he said flatly, "what brings you in today?" Keisha could already sense this wasn't going to be the appointment she had hoped for. Keisha sat straight on the examination table, trying to look composed despite her pain. "I've been having severe abdominal pain for about 3 weeks now, Dr. Mercer. Sometimes it's a dull ache, but often it becomes sharp, especially on my right side." Dr. Mercer nodded without looking up from his tablet. His fingers swiped across the screen as if Keisha's words were less important than whatever he was reading. "Any other symptoms?" he asked, his tone flat and uninterested. "Yes, I've been very tired lately, and sometimes I feel nauseous after eating. I've also noticed." "How's your stress level at work?" Dr. Mercer interrupted, finally glancing up but looking at her forehead rather than making eye contact. "My job can be stressful, but this feels different," Keisha explained. "My mother had ovarian cysts, and my symptoms seem similar to what she described." At the mention of family history, Keisha expected Dr. Mercer to show more interest. Instead, his expression hardened slightly. "Let's not jump to conclusions based on internet searches," he said dismissively. "Black women often have different pain thresholds. What you're describing sounds like standard stress symptoms. Keisha blinked, caught off guard by both his dismissal and the casual racial comment. I didn't Google my symptoms, doctor. This is based on my family history, and I'm not sure what my race has to do with my pain threshold. Dr. Mercer sighed loudly, setting down his tablet. Ms. Washington, I see patients all day who think they know what's wrong with them. It complicates my job. He approached and pressed on her abdomen briefly, his examination lasting less than 20 seconds. His touch was impersonal and rushed, nothing like the thorough examinations Keisha had experienced with previous doctors. Does that hurt? He asked, pressing on the right side. Yes, Keisha winced. That's where the sharp pain usually. Tenderness is normal with stress-related discomfort, he said, already stepping back. He didn't check any other areas or ask follow-up questions. Through the thin walls, Keisha could hear Dr. Mercer's friendly, engaged voice with the patient in the next room. The contrast to his cold treatment of her was striking. I really think I need some tests, Keisha persisted. An ultrasound at least, to rule out cysts or... Ms. Washington, Dr. Mercer cut her off again, his voice tinged with impatience. Insurance companies don't approve expensive tests for basic stress symptoms. I'm going to prescribe you some mild pain medication and suggest you try relaxation techniques. He began typing on his tablet again. Keisha noticed his wedding ring and the family photo on his desk, a smiling white woman and 2 teenage children. She wondered if he would treat his wife with the same dismissive attitude if she came in with similar symptoms. Doctor, I understand your expertise, but I know my body, Keisha said firmly. This pain is interfering with my daily life. I can't even sleep properly. Could we please consider some basic tests? Dr. Mercer's expression darkened. He set his tablet down with a little too much force. Ms. Washington, do you know how many patients I see who demand unnecessary tests? The emergency room is full of people who think WebMD makes them medical experts. I'm not demanding anything, Keisha replied, trying to keep her voice steady. I'm asking for appropriate medical care for symptoms that are concerning me. A tense silence filled the room. Through the window, Keisha could see the hospital parking lot, where people came seeking help and healing. The irony wasn't lost on her. Look, Dr. Mercer said finally, his voice lower, but no less dismissive. Take the prescription. If you're still having issues in 2 weeks, make another appointment. But I suspect this will resolve itself once you manage your stress better. He tore off a prescription slip and handed it to her without another word. As Keisha took it, she noticed how he avoided touching her fingers. The nurse will see you out, he said, already opening the door to leave. Try to get more rest and drink plenty of water. Before Keisha could respond, Dr. Mercer was gone, the door closing behind him with a firm click. She sat there alone, still in pain, holding a prescription she knew wouldn't help, and fighting back tears of frustration and anger. Keisha sat in her car in the hospital parking lot, the prescription paper crumpled in her hand. Tears of frustration welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. The pain in her abdomen seemed to pulse in time with her anger. This isn't right, she whispered to herself, smoothing out the prescription. Dr. Mercer had scribbled an order for a basic over-the-counter pain reliever, something she had already tried without success. After taking a deep breath, Keisha pulled out her phone and called her office. Hi, Lisa. I'm going to need the rest of the day off. The doctor's appointment didn't go as planned. As she drove home, the conversation with Dr. Mercer played over and over in her mind. His dismissive tone, the way he barely looked at her, and most disturbing, this comment about black women's pain thresholds. Each replay made her more certain this wasn't just poor bedside manner. It was something far worse. At home, Keisha changed into comfortable clothes and made herself a cup of tea. The sharp pain came again, making her double over at the kitchen counter. This was not stress. This was not in her head. Something was wrong with her body, and Dr. Mercer had refused to take it seriously. Her phone rang. It was her mother. How did the appointment go, honey? Her mother asked. Keisha sighed. Not good, Mom. The doctor barely examined me and said it was just stress. Did you tell them about the family history? About my cysts? I tried to, but he cut me off. Said I shouldn't jump to conclusions based on internet searches, which I wasn't even doing. Her mother was silent for a moment. Keisha, I hate to ask this, but do you think? Yes, Keisha said firmly. I think it was because I'm black. He made a comment about black women having different pain thresholds. Her mother's sharp intake of breath was audible. Oh, Keisha, it's 2025, and we're still dealing with this nonsense. You need to get a second opinion right away. After hanging up, Keisha sat at her laptop and began researching her rights as a patient. She found the hospital's patient complaint form and began filling it out, detailing Dr. Mercer's behavior. Her fingers hesitated over the submit button. Would filing a complaint make any difference? Or would it be dismissed just as easily as her pain had been? The next morning, Keisha woke up with even worse pain. When she went to the bathroom, she noticed spotting, something she hadn't mentioned to Dr. Mercer because he hadn't given her the chance. This new symptom worried her enough to call in sick to work. She decided to seek help elsewhere. After several phone calls, she managed to get an appointment with Dr. Lisa Patel at Eastside Women's Clinic for the following day. It was a relief to hear the receptionist's warm, professional tone. That afternoon, Keisha received an unexpected call from Westside Medical Center. Ms. Washington, this is Emily, Dr. Mercer's nurse. The doctor asked me to follow up and see if the medication is helping. Keisha took a deep breath. No, it's not helping at all. In fact, I have new symptoms now. I see, Emily said, her voice careful. What new symptoms? I'm having spotting, and the pain is worse. I've made an appointment with another doctor. There was a pause. Dr. Mercer did make a note that you seemed unsatisfied with your visit. He wanted me to remind you that stress can cause various symptoms. It wasn't just that I was unsatisfied, Keisha said firmly. I felt dismissed and disrespected. And to be honest, I felt discriminated against. Emily was silent for a moment. I understand. Would you like to speak with our patient advocate about this? I'm already filling out a formal complaint, Keisha replied. But yes, I would like to speak with your patient advocate too. After arranging a call with the patient advocate for later that day, Keisha hung up and leaned back on her couch. The pain was still there, a constant reminder of Dr. Mercer's failure. But now, something else was growing alongside it: determination. She opened her laptop again and began typing a detailed account of everything that had happened in Dr. Mercer's office. She would not be silenced. She would not let her pain be dismissed. And she would not let Dr. Mercer treat anyone else the way he had treated her. The fight had just begun. The waiting room at Eastside Women's Clinic looked nothing like Dr. Mercer's sterile office. Warm colors decorated the walls, and the chairs were actually comfortable. Keisha arrived 15 minutes early, still in considerable pain but feeling hopeful. Ms. Washington? The receptionist smiled warmly. Dr. Patel will be with you shortly. Would you like some water while you wait? This simple act of kindness nearly brought Keisha to tears after her previous experience. Yes, thank you, she managed to say. True to the receptionist's word, Keisha waited less than 10 minutes before a nurse called her name, pronouncing it correctly, and led her to an examination room. I'm Maria, Dr. Patel's nurse, the woman said kindly. Can you tell me what brings you in today? Keisha explained her symptoms, including the new spotting that had started. Maria listened attentively, making notes and asking thoughtful follow-up questions. Dr. Patel will want to know about your previous appointment, Maria said. Do you mind telling me a bit about that? Keisha hesitated, then decided to be honest. The doctor barely examined me. He dismissed my concerns as stress and made a comment about black women having different pain thresholds. Maria's expression darkened. I'm very sorry you experienced that, Ms. Washington. That's completely unacceptable. Dr. Patel will take your concerns seriously, I promise you. When Dr. Lisa Patel entered the room, Keisha was immediately struck by her confident yet kind demeanor. In her early 40s with dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, Dr. Patel carried herself with quiet authority. Ms. Washington, I'm Dr. Patel. I understand you've been experiencing abdominal pain for several weeks now. Is that correct? She maintained eye contact as she spoke, her attention fully on Keisha. Yes, and it's getting worse. I'd also started having some spotting yesterday. Dr. Patel frowned slightly. I see. And you mentioned a family history of ovarian cysts. Yes, my mother had them. That's why I'm concerned. That's a valid concern, Dr. Patel said firmly. Family history is always significant. I'd like to do a thorough examination, and then we'll likely need some imaging and blood work. Is that all right with you? Keisha nodded, relief washing over her. Yes, that's exactly what I was hoping for. The examination was comprehensive and professional. Dr. Paddle explained each step before she did it, and asked permission before touching Keisha. When she pressed on the painful area, her expression grew serious. You do have significant tenderness on your right side, she confirmed. I'd like to order an ultrasound immediately. The spotting combined with this pain concerns me. After the examination, Dr. Paddle sat down to talk with Keisha. While we wait for the ultrasound appointment, I'd like to hear more about your previous medical visit, if you're comfortable sharing. Keisha described her experience with Dr. Mercer in detail. As she spoke, Dr. Paddle's expression grew increasingly troubled. What you experienced goes against everything medical ethics stands for, Dr. Paddle said when Keisha finished. Medical bias is real and dangerous. It's doctors like that who contribute to the higher mortality rates for Black women in healthcare. I filed a complaint with the hospital, Keisha said. Good, but I want you to know I'm willing to advocate for you if needed. Dr. Paddle handed Keisha her card with her personal number written on the back. Call me if you need support with this. Medical racism needs to be confronted directly. Before Keisha left, the clinic had already scheduled her ultrasound for the following morning. The receptionist also gave her a prescription for a The ultrasound room was dimly lit as Keisha lay on the examination table. The technician, a friendly woman named Diane, spread cool gel across Keisha's abdomen. Try to relax if you can, Diane said gently. I know it's uncomfortable. Keisha stared at the ceiling, trying to calm her racing thoughts. The pain had grown worse overnight, keeping her awake for hours. Each time she shifted in bed, sharp stabs had radiated through her lower abdomen. On the monitor, Diane moved the ultrasound wand methodically, occasionally freezing the image to take measurements. Her expression remained professional, but Keisha noticed a slight frown forming. Are you seeing something? Keisha asked, unable to interpret the gray shadows on the screen. Dr. Patel will review the results with you, Diane replied, her tone careful. I'm just making sure we get comprehensive images. When the ultrasound finished, Keisha was asked to wait in an examination room. The 30 minutes that passed felt like hours. She scrolled through work emails on her phone without really reading them, her mind fixed on the technician's concerned expression. When Dr. Patel finally entered, she carried a folder and wore a serious expression. Keisha, thank you for waiting. I've reviewed your ultrasound, and I'm glad we did this test right away. Keisha's heart pounded. What did you find? Dr. Paddle sat down and opened the folder, turning it so Keisha could see the images. You have a large ovarian cyst on your right side, measuring about 8 centimeters. That's quite significant, and it explains your pain. A cyst? Keisha repeated, feeling a mix of validation and fear. Just like my mother had. Yes, and the concerning part is that this cyst appears to be what we call a complex cyst. It has solid components as well as fluid. The blood tests also show some elevated markers that concern me. Keisha swallowed hard. What does that mean? It means we need to remove it surgically, and soon, Dr. Paddle explained. The pain you're experiencing suggests it might be starting to twist, which can cut off blood supply to your ovary. That's an emergency situation we want to avoid. Surgery? Keisha whispered. Yes, the laparoscopic surgery, which is minimally invasive. I'd like to schedule it for tomorrow if possible. Once we remove the cyst, we'll send it to pathology to rule out any other concerns. The word pathology hung in the air. Keisha understood the implication. You're worried it might be cancerous, she stated flatly. Dr. Paddle nodded, her expression compassionate but honest. It's a possibility we need to consider, especially with the blood markers. But let's not jump ahead. First, we need to get this cyst out and get you feeling better. As Dr. Patel outlined the surgical plan, Keisha's mind drifted back to Dr. Mercer's dismissive attitude. If she had accepted his diagnosis of just stress, how much longer would she have waited? How much worse would it have gotten? I can't help thinking about what would have happened if I hadn't sought a second opinion, Keisha said. Dr. Patel's expression hardened slightly. Unfortunately, your experience is all too common. Studies consistently show that pain reported by Black women is taken less seriously in medical settings. It's a systemic problem that costs lives. After finalizing the surgery details, Keisha asked a question that had been nagging at her. Dr. Patel, would you be willing to document what you found and what would have happened if this had been left untreated? For my complaint against Dr. Mercer. Absolutely. Dr. Patel replied without hesitation. What happened to you was medical negligence, possibly compounded by bias. It needs to be addressed. Leaving the clinic, Keisha called her mother and then her boss to explain she needed emergency surgery. Her emotions swung between relief at finally having answers and anger at the treatment she had received from Dr. Mercer. That evening, as she packed a small bag for the hospital, Keisha received an email from Hannah Klein, the patient advocate. Ms. Washington, in light of new medical information, we are escalating your complaint to the Hospital Ethics Committee and the State Medical Board. Please call me as soon as you can. The wheels of justice were beginning to turn. The hospital's conference room felt intimidating with its long mahogany table and leather chairs. 2 weeks after her successful surgery, Keisha sat on one side, facing Hannah Klein, the patient advocate, and Dr. Richard Evans, the hospital's chief of medicine. Dr. Patel sat beside Keisha for support. Ms. Washington, we've reviewed your case thoroughly. Dr. Evans began, his gray hair and serious expression giving him an air of authority. First, I want to say that I'm glad you're recovering well from your surgery. Thank you, Keisha replied, her hand unconsciously moving to her abdomen, where 3 small incisions were still healing. The pathology report had confirmed the cyst wasn't cancerous, but Dr. Patel had explained that without timely surgery, she could have lost her ovary or developed a dangerous infection. We take complaints about our physicians very seriously, Hannah Klein added, especially ones of this nature. Dr. Evans cleared his throat. After reviewing your medical records and consulting with Dr. Patel, it's clear that Dr. Mercer failed to provide the standard of care expected at our hospital. The symptoms you described should have prompted immediate testing, particularly given your family history. Keisha nodded, appreciating the validation but waiting for the but that often followed such statements. Instead, Dr. Evans continued. What concerns us even more are the patterns we found when we reviewed Dr. Mercer's patient records. Patterns? Keisha asked. Hannah Klein opened a folder. Yes, after your complaint, we conducted an audit of Dr. Mercer's patient records for the past 3 years. We found significant disparities in care based on race. She pushed a document across the table. It contained charts showing stark differences in testing ordered, referrals to specialists, pain medication prescribed, and time spent with patients. These numbers show that Dr. Mercer consistently ordered fewer diagnostic tests for Black and Hispanic patients compared to white patients with identical symptoms, Hannah explained. The differences are too significant to be coincidental. Keisha stared at the charts, her suspicions confirmed in black and white. So I wasn't imagining it. No, you weren't, Dr. Evans said firmly. And you're not the first to complain. We found 5 previous complaints filed against Dr. Mercer by minority patients. I'm ashamed to say they weren't properly investigated. Until now, Hannah added. Why now? Keisha asked. What made my case different? Dr. Patel spoke up. Documentation. Most patients don't get a second opinion right away, and many don't have concrete proof of misdiagnosis. You had both. Plus, your formal complaint was detailed and compelling. Dr. Evans nodded. We've also begun interviewing Dr. Mercer's nursing staff. Several have come forward with concerning accounts of comments he's made when patients weren't present. What happens next? Keisha asked. We've suspended Dr. Mercer pending a full investigation, Dr. Evans explained. The case has been referred to the State Medical Board. They'll conduct their own investigation, which may result in disciplinary action against his medical license. Hannah slid another document across the table. This is a formal apology from the hospital, along with confirmation that all your medical expenses, including those from Eastside Women's Clinic and your surgery, will be covered by us. Keisha looked at the paper but didn't touch it. I appreciate that, but this isn't just about money. We understand, Dr. Evans said. That's why we're implementing new hospital-wide training on bias in healthcare. We're also establishing a diversity committee to review policies and practices. We'd like to invite you to be part of that committee, if you're willing. This offer surprised Keisha. You want my input? Yes, Hannah said, Patient perspectives, especially from those who've experienced discrimination, are essential to creating real change. As the meeting continued, Keisha learned that 3 other patients who had been mistreated by Dr. Mercer had agreed to share their stories. Their cases, combined with hers, were building a compelling case against the doctor. Walking out of the hospital afterward, Dr. Paddle touched Keisha's arm gently. "You've started something important here. What Dr. Mercer did, or failed to do, could have had serious consequences for you. By speaking up, you might be saving others from worse outcomes." Keisha nodded, feeling a mix of emotions: vindication, lingering anger, but also a sense of purpose. "This isn't over, is it?" "No," Dr. Paddle replied. "The medical board hearing is just the beginning." The state medical board hearing room was smaller than Keisha had imagined. A panel of 5 doctors and 2 public members sat behind a curved table, their expressions serious as they reviewed the documents before them. To the left sat Dr. Mercer with his attorney, a sharp-looking woman in a gray suit. Keisha sat on the right side with Hannah Klein and the hospital's legal representative. This was the 3rd session of the hearing, which had stretched over 2 weeks. Keisha had already given her testimony during the 1st session, describing in detail her appointment with Dr. Mercer and the subsequent diagnosis by Dr. Pathel. 3 other former patients of Dr. Mercer had also shared similar experiences of dismissal and inadequate care. Today, Dr. Mercer would face direct questioning from the board. Keisha felt her heart racing as the chairperson, Dr. Williams, called the hearing to order. "Dr. Mercer, you've heard the testimonies against you," Dr. Williams began. "Do you wish to respond to these allegations?" Dr. Mercer stood, looking much less confident than he had in his office months ago. His face appeared tired, with dark circles under his eyes. "I practiced medicine for 15 years with an excellent record," he began defensively. "I make decisions based on symptoms, not on race. These accusations are exaggerated." Dr. Rodriguez, a board member, leaned forward. "Dr. Mercer, we've reviewed your patient records. The data shows a clear pattern of ordering fewer tests and spending less time with minority patients. How do you explain this statistical evidence?" Dr. Mercer shifted uncomfortably. "Different patients require different approaches. Perhaps cultural differences in how symptoms are reported affected my decisions." A murmur ran through the room. Keisha clenched her fists under the table, angered by how he was trying to shift blame. "Let's discuss Ms. Washington's case specifically," Dr. Williams continued. "She reported severe abdominal pain and a family history of ovarian cysts. Standard protocol would indicate at minimum an ultrasound. Why didn't you order one?" "I used my clinical judgment," Dr. Mercer replied stiffly. "Her symptoms seemed consistent with stress-related pain. Not every patient needs expensive tests." Yet a second opinion found a large ovarian cyst requiring emergency surgery, Dr. Rodriguez pointed out, "a condition you completely missed." Dr. Mercer's attorney whispered something to him, and he nodded slightly. "I may have overlooked some aspects of her case," he admitted reluctantly. "But I maintain there was no racial bias in my decision-making." At this point, the board's legal counsel approached with a tablet. "Dr. Mercer, we have obtained records of communications between you and your nursing staff. I'd like to play an audio recording from your office on the day of Ms. Washington's appointment." Keisha sat up straighter. This was new information, something she hadn't heard about before. The recording began to play through the room's speakers. Dr. Mercer's voice was unmistakable. "Another one who thinks she knows more than me. These women come in here, reading WebMD, demanding tests, especially the black ones, always exaggerating their pain. Give her the standard stress speech and get her out quickly. I'm already behind schedule." The room fell silent. Keisha's breath caught in her throat as she heard the undeniable evidence of Dr. Mercer's prejudice. Dr. Mercer's face had drained of color. His attorney looked stunned, clearly unprepared for this evidence. "Dr. Mercer," Dr. Williams said sternly, "would you like to revise your statement about there being no racial bias in your practice?" Dr. Mercer stared at the table, his earlier confidence completely evaporated. I don't recall making those comments." "The voice analysis confirms it is you," the legal counsel stated firmly. "And this isn't the only such recording we have." Keisha watched as Dr. Mercer's shoulders slumped. The man who had dismissed her pain, who had potentially put her life at risk through his negligence and bias, now looked small and defeated. Dr. Mercer, Dr. Williams said, "Given this new evidence, do you have anything else to say to this board? Or to Ms. Washington?" For the first time that day, Dr. Mercer looked directly at Keisha. Their eyes met across the room, and Keisha saw something unexpected in his gaze. Not anger or defiance, but what appeared to be shame. "I've made mistakes," he said quietly. "I see that now." 1 year later, Keisha stood nervously at the entrance of Westside Community Center. The large meeting room inside was filled with medical professionals, doctors, nurses, and medical students from hospitals across the city. They had come for a special training session on recognizing and addressing bias in healthcare. Keisha checked her watch. It was almost time. 6 months ago, she would never have imagined being here, especially not alongside the person who was about to join her on stage. "Are you ready?" Dr. Patel asked, approaching with a supportive smile. "As ready as I'll ever be," Keisha replied, smoothing her blazer. The medical board's decision had been swift and severe. Dr. Mercer's license had been suspended for 6 months, and he was required to complete extensive training on cultural competency and bias in medicine before he could practice again. The hospital had settled with Keisha and the other affected patients, providing compensation and free medical care. But the most surprising development came 3 months after the hearing. Dr. Mercer had reached out through his attorney, asking to meet with Keisha. Against the advice of many, including her mother, Keisha had agreed to the meeting at a neutral location with Dr. Patel present. She had expected excuses or a forced apology. Instead, she found a changed man. "Ms. Washington," Dr. Mercer had said, his voice humble, "I've spent months examining my actions and beliefs, the recordings, hearing my own words. I didn't recognize the person I had become. I can't undo what I did to you and others, but I want to use my experience to help change the system that allowed me to cause harm." Skeptical but curious, Keisha had listened as he outlined his idea, a program where he would share his story as a warning to other medical professionals, with Keisha offering the patient perspective if she was willing. Now, as she watched Dr. Mercer approach the community center, Keisha reflected on her decision to participate. This wasn't about forgiveness. It was about creating meaningful change. Inside, the program director introduced them to the audience. "Today's speakers offer a unique perspective on bias in healthcare. Please welcome Keisha Washington and Dr. James Mercer." The audience applauded politely, though some looked confused to see patient and doctor standing together. Keisha spoke first, telling her story without holding back: the pain, the dismissal, the fear, and the anger. The room was completely silent as she described what it felt like to have her concerns ignored because of her race. "I was lucky," she concluded. "I got a second opinion in time. Many others don't. The statistics are clear. Black women are 3 times more likely to die from preventable pregnancy-related causes. Black patients receive less pain medication for the same conditions. These aren't just numbers. Their lives being damaged or lost because of bias." When it was Dr. Mercer's turn, he stepped forward with none of his former arrogance. "I was the doctor every medical school warns you not to become," he began. "I didn't start my career intending to discriminate. It happened gradually. Unconscious biases became conscious actions. I told myself I was making objective decisions, but the evidence proved otherwise." He explained how the investigation had revealed his pattern of providing inferior care to minority patients, showing the same charts Keisha had seen during the hospital meeting. "The most shocking part wasn't the data," he continued. "It was hearing myself on those recordings, confronting my own prejudice stripped away all my excuses. I'm here today not as an example to follow, but as a warning of how bias can corrupt good medicine." As the session ended and the audience began asking questions, Keisha noticed something remarkable. Young medical students were lining up, eager to discuss how they could guard against developing similar biases. Hospital administrators were taking notes on policy changes. Later, as they prepared to leave, Dr. Mercer turned to Keisha. "Thank you for allowing me to be part of this," he said. "When I lost my license, I thought my career was over. I never imagined it would transform into something more important." Keisha nodded. "Sometimes the most painful experiences lead to the most necessary changes. This won't erase what happened, but if it prevents even one patient from going through what I did, it's worth it. As she walked to her car, Keisha felt a sense of closure mixed with determination. Her story had become more than a personal tragedy. It was now a powerful tool for change. The doctor who had once dismissed her pain was now helping to heal a broken system, proving that even the most unlikely person could become an ally in the fight for equality in healthcare.